Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Maggie O'Brien, and I'm pleased to welcome you to today's webinar on supporting teachers in their shift to project-based learning. This session is hosted by Define Learning, an online project-based learning solution for K-12 educators. Before we begin, I just have a couple of housekeeping items to go over. First, if you are experiencing any audio issues, please check the audio settings on your computer, as well as your speaker volume settings. If you are still having issues, please see the detailed audio troubleshooting file available in the resource list below the Q&A window. There are also some other icons located at the bottom of the webinar console that open additional feature panels. You can read about today's speakers in the Speaker Bio panel. To submit a question for our speakers to answer during the Q&A session, type them in the Q&A box located above the resource list window. Finally, an on-demand archive of today's presentation will be available online in the next 24 hours. Both the archive and a free download version of the PowerPoint slides will be available through edweek.org. Now I'd like to introduce you to our presenters. Tina Henkel is the Director of STEM Education at Norwalk Public Schools. Prior to Norwalk, Tina served as a district-level administrator for over 11 years, where she served as an Assistant Director of STEM and Data Management and the Supervisor of Math and Technology. Tina is an expert in how the use of data can transform the educational environment to improve student achievement. Our next presenter is Kate Curran, who is the STEM teacher in residence for Norwalk and has been working in Norwalk as an elementary school teacher for the past 5 years. Kate has extensive experience designing and writing curriculum maps and supporting teachers in understanding and teaching to the Common Core standards. Chrissy Cormier is currently the science coach and STEAM teacher at Columbia's K-8 magnet school. Her roles include instructional coaching and creating a new K-8 STEAM curriculum. She believes through career-driven performance tasks, students will gain 21st century readiness skills, including collaboration, creative thinking, and global citizenship. Today, we are going to learn how Norwalk determined the best way to scale professional development and support teachers in their shift to project-based learning. So welcome, and without further ado, I will let Tina take it away.
Thanks, Maggie. Hello, everyone out there. We're really excited to have some people not only in the United States, but beyond. So I'm very excited to be joined by two of my colleagues in Norwalk and to share with you our story about where we started last year around project-based learning and where we are right now, and hopefully where we see ourselves in the future. So our agenda today is to talk a little bit about what project-based learning is and why it's important. We want to provide you with multiple lenses around our journey and around what project-based learning means to each of us, because I am a district leader, so I have a district lens. And then Kate and Chrissy are both at boots on the ground at the teacher level, and it's important that you hear their perspective and the pros and cons of our journey and what we've learned through our experience. And then finally, we wanted to leave you all with some really good ideas around curriculum tools and resources, and hopefully answer some questions to give you some new ideas and some inspiring strategies to move forward so that your schools and your district can transition smoothly to project-based learning, because just like when you design a project-based learning experience, it's very messy, and so is the implementation and the planning on a systematic level. So just to give you a little bit of background on Norwalk, we are a very large urban district, which we have 22 schools, 12 elementary schools, which span pre-K to 5. We have 5 middle schools, which span grades 6 through 8. And we have 4 comprehensive high schools. 2 of the high schools are housed within 2 of our other high schools, so they're actually schools within a school, although they have their own identification code, so they're legitimately their own high schools. We have about 12,000 students, and as the slide shows, we have a variety of student and diversity in our district. You can see that we have a large population of Hispanic students in our district. We have a very large population of free and reduced lunch students. Our EL population is growing by the day, frankly, and therefore we have a high population of high needs students, which encompasses one or more of the subgroup areas outlined below, so either special ed, free and reduced lunch, or EL. One unique aspect of Norwalk that we really pride ourselves on is that we are a district of choice. We believe in identifying unique themes and focus areas throughout our district, and so each school is, at some point, we hope that all 22 schools will have their own theme, but we are working towards everyone finding their own identity. And Chrissy and Kate will talk a little bit about their experiences within some of these choice schools. But for example, we have a Montessori school, we have a visual and performing arts school, we have a Bank Street school, which is our Columbus school where Chrissy works, and she's going to talk a little bit about that theme in a minute. We have our high school. One of our high schools is a Center for Global Studies. Another high school is focused around pathways to technology, where we partner with IBM. And those students, when they graduate, actually have an experience, a dedicated experience to actually interview and potentially get a job right out of high school with IBM. We have an International Baccalaureate high school. We focus on Project Lead the Way throughout the district. We have a dual language school. Right now we have one dual language school in our district, but we hope to expand that to at least 2 more schools in the coming years. We have a Quad D school. And finally, which is what we're going to use a lot of our experiences around today, around PBL, our new STEAM school, which is under development and under construction as we speak. Half of the school has been opened. But we will open the other half of the school in a year, and eventually that will be a third magnet school that will focus on K through 8 students in the district. So I just wanted to, before we move on, I just wanted both Kate and Chrissy to elaborate a little bit on 2 of the choice and theme schools that we have in the district.
Hi, so the school where I am, this is Chrissy. We follow a Bank Street inspired model. We're not fully Bank Street, but we try to stick to those Bank Street methods along with other progressive methods, which we're an experience-based school focusing on collaboration, community, self-expression while integrating all content areas. The emphasis is on the whole child and really making some really full interdisciplinary curriculums. It offers the children a lot of choice and voice in their own education. We look at the emotional, social, physical, and intellectual being while valuing and reinforcing the child's integrity.
And then this is Kate here. I come from Silvermine's Dual Language Magnet School. It's a K-5. Currently, we do have plans to move up towards the middle school, so grades 6 to 8. Right now, though, Silvermine, our mission is to provide a high-quality academic program that both challenges and inspires students to reach their full potential. We also have a really unique opportunity and program surrounding biliteracy and becoming bilingual through lots of different opportunities, and also bicultural through our robust dual language program. And then we do empower students with the skills they need to be of strong moral and ethical character while also being respectful of other languages and cultures in this modern world.
Thanks, ladies. So the reason why in Norwalk we wanted to emphasize some of this theme choice aspect is in this district you can attend any one of those schools that you choose. You do not have to be situated in a specific area of the town to attend any one of those schools. So when we focus on project-based learning today and authentic and engaging experiences, that's a common theme that in Norwalk we believe in throughout all of these schools. Even though you may have a unique theme, it is focused in certain areas that also are rooted in project-based learning. So this is a question that we are always asked a lot. What is project-based learning and why is it important? It's not really an easy question to answer. It's a complex question. It's complex because of the design, because of the implementation. And when we think about the work, we always want to think about the learner and focusing our energies around the learner-centered practices that we want to see when we go into the classrooms. And so our philosophy yields actionable plans and measurable results. We believe in authentic challenge-based learning that engages students to think critically and deeply. And we want them to be asking questions such as, why are we doing this and what's the purpose? If they can't answer that and we can't answer it, then it's a huge reflective question that we need to decide, why are we doing this for the students, and what is the learning and why is it important? And so lastly, we really are shifting towards inquiry instruction throughout the district, which project-based learning lends itself to. And we want kids to dive deep into their thinking and the metacognitive learning that transcends throughout a high-quality experience for students. And without project-based learning, it's very difficult to do that. It becomes very surface level, and you never really get deep into the learning and the thinking of the student. So we believe in our decisions to be focused and rooted in evidence-based and research-based practices. We look a lot at what our employers are looking for when we graduate students beyond high school. And most importantly, when we look at experiences for kids, we want to always ask the industry leaders what is important to them and what are the skills and qualities that they expect students to have when they go into the job market. And so many of you have probably seen the current report from Future of Jobs, but it's a huge shift now between maybe what was even 5 years ago and what it is today. And you can see at the top of the list the 3 most important aspects that employers want within their new employees is for them to tackle a problem, complex problems, how are they going to think critically, and thinking outside of the box in order to solve those problems. No problem. So we're really connected to the work that comes and the information that comes from the research around the industry leaders. We believe that this is important for many reasons. The reality is we still are confined within high-stakes testing and accountability measures in our state. And so we want to make sure that whatever we do in the classroom is worth our time on many levels, not just for the students, but also for the teachers. And we know that the research shows us through some of our industry leaders, such as Autodesk here, that project-based learning improves everything around the child. And it's not just test scores, it's engagement, it's love of learning, it's attendance, they want to come to school, they don't want to miss out. And more importantly, we want to get to the heart of their thinking, and we want them to think deeply. And project-based learning is how we hope to do that. I'm sure many of you have seen the video that Carl Fish did many years ago when he first distributed Did You Know? And it's all about the statistics in the world and how the world is changing. The most recent iteration I found quite interesting because, as you know, the percentage of the jobs that we're preparing our students for every time seems to keep increasing. And so the work and the research from our industry leaders around preparation for kids and what the skills are that they need when they go to the workforce is more critical now than it ever was. These students cannot be so focused on one specific device. They need to be adaptable, they need to be flexible, they need to be able to use their skills in a variety of situations, and project-based learning enables that to happen. So Chrissy's going to talk a little bit about and Kate are going to talk a little bit about project-based learning in general and why we believe in Norwalk it's so critical to begin on this journey.
So a little bit about PBL and my experiences that I've had with working with the students is really maintaining high expectations and then managing those student expectations throughout the whole process. You're really trying to foster that creativity and encourage risk-taking, but also keeping in mind that you're still evaluating the whole time. It takes a lot of scaffolding from the teacher, which often takes the form of modeling. You aren't so much delivering content as you are questioning the students as they interact with the content. We try and give the project, and then we teach the skills the students need as we go. So it's really more about teaching them the skills to function in this kind of landscape. We give the project, and then we teach the skills, but then it also takes a lot of modeling and teaching a strong growth mindset, which also means some social emotional work. You have to backfill with executive functioning skills, some time management, and you really have to teach those norms, routines, and strong student discourse. But once it gets rolling, it's amazing to see how invested the students become, how deep their learning goes, to the point where they actually become the teachers themselves. They get excited about what they're learning. I've seen kids just dive into it and really, they're invested, the teachers are invested. It just becomes more of a community of learning.
And then to add to that, we wanted to expand students' thinking around project-based learning and STEM and all of that to real-world context. So getting them thinking about college and career readiness, getting them into the community and seeing how this can apply to real-world problems, real-world jobs. Norwalk, we are very fortunate to have right in our backyard a partnership with Pepperidge Farm, which some of you probably know is the famous creator of Goldfish, the crackers. We have a wonderful partnership with them in our high schools where they invite our students who are interested in unique STEM-focused careers, and they learn about different kinds of careers they could enter into with the skills that they have been learning and applying through project-based learning right here in town at a factory they wouldn't have known they could use those skills for. For example, they learned about quality control. They learned about packaging engineering, designing the Goldfish packaging for the crackers, for the cookies. They also learned about the very rare and unique job of being a flavorist. We only have a very select few colleges that offer programs to teach students to become this career. So it's really great to see their minds turning to see how they can apply it to when they're older, to get them thinking about what they want to do when they're out of school.
And just another example from our school, our first grade works with the Norwalk Tree Alliance, Boulder Farms, which is a community farming. They've created a habitat at school. They grow food with hydroponics in the classroom, and their culminating task is a fully functioning fresh food market at school. To add on to this, they also go to State Park every year with artist installations. They focus on a different artist each year, which they then integrate into their field trips and their own market task. In addition to that, they're helping to provide food to those in need through UNICEF's Kid Power-Ups and earning exchange coins to plant new trees. So it's really just a very robust, fully integrated project.
So Chrissy and Kate gave you some really good, exciting examples from a teacher lens. And these are just some examples in Norwalk. And we always go back and try to look at some other exemplars from other experiences with teachers that have been maybe doing project-based learning for a lot longer than we have, and what is their experience. And we're really happy to see that for all of the research that we've been collecting and reviewing around project-based learning, it's confirmed that what we're doing is right for kids, because teachers are seeing that, students are becoming more creative. They feel a connection and a purpose to what they're learning and why they're learning it. And the problem-solving ability and skills that foster that creativity within a good PBL design is second to none. So we really feel that although this journey has been short, like very, I don't want to say slow, but we're in the infancy stages of this work, and we are nowhere near a full capacity and full district-wide implementation approach. But we have really strong pockets of examples, and that's why Chrissy and Kate are here, and we're really excited to share some of those today. So we thank you for you guys listening out there. So just to kind of go back and now talk about a systemic approach around the design of building capacity and designing a really good approach to project-based learning. I've only been in Norwalk for about a year. I arrived in November of last year, and when I arrived, as I was visiting schools and going into classrooms and talking to teachers and talking to administrators, it was quite clear to me that the capacity level at the schools was low. At that time, we did not have coaches like Chrissy. We didn't have good models in the classrooms for other teachers to go and observe and have conversation around. We also didn't have department chairs or curriculum leaders to kind of help us with this work. And so that has evolved since last year, but at that time, we really were even throwing the PBL acronym out a little too frequently than I would have expected, because when you actually ask somebody in the district what PBL meant to you and what it was, if you really dove in a little deeper, PBL was actually being defined as project-based learning, problem-based learning, and phenomenon-based learning. So right off the bat, when you think about systemic change and building capacity, if you don't have a common language around a three-letter acronym, that's difficult. So for a year, we really took a lot of time to gather our troops and find our go-to people throughout the district and build ad hoc committees around a common language and a common conversation around what project-based learning means to us in Norwalk, and how does that fit in within a STEM or STEAM approach. As I mentioned in the beginning of the slides, we have a lot of theme-based schools, and even though your theme may be visual and performing arts, it really is rooted in a project-based learning experience. That's the reality. You can call yourself, a dual language school, but within that is a combination of strategies and skills that really integrate literacy and social science and all the other aspects that really make learning more authentic and real world for kids. So for a year, we spent time designing and creating a vision and a mission around project-based learning. And here's where we are with that so far. We believe that project-based learning should be authentic and engaging, needs to be high interest and creative for kids, and we want to make sure that whatever experience they have, there's an iterative process around problem solving and a connection to community. And as we mentioned before, we're very fortunate in Norwalk that we have a lot of options for community partners. And for those of you that are either starting out or even just beginning with this transition, it is very helpful to kind of come up with a list of who your partners are, and if there are any tentacles out there that you can reach out to so that you can gather more partnerships through the experience. Because when you start looking at making the student learning public and the audience aspect, when you add actual community and industry level partners in that audience, the learning takes a whole new level for the students, and it becomes really exciting. So I just wanted to share with you our vision and our mission. So as I mentioned before, last year was a little difficult for us, and we were at a slow go at building the capacity because we didn't have coaches, we didn't have department chairs, and we were really pulling teachers out of the classroom a lot to design our work and do some research. And we initially started with a group of teachers that Chrissy was a member of. We called them our digital literacy leaders, and we identified people who we felt really honed their craft around technology integration and interdisciplinary examples with teachers. So Chrissy was a part of that team. And then Kate, within her dual language experience, she has very unique training that other teachers don't have, that to really build a sense of community and connectedness with the students, and that really kind of helped us enhance that group. So we've continued that group, and we've actually expanded it now this year. We have coaches now in all of our schools, K through 8, and we started a cohort team within our K-8 STEAM group, where they became our cohort design team, where we'll show you some examples down the road, but this team is the actual foundation for a lot of the work that we're seeing throughout across the content areas that are designing our STEAM-based curriculum and our STEAM-based tools to help design project-based learning for our teachers. Which brings me to our common theme that we actually started to see throughout the work from last year to this year. As I mentioned, when we start looking at our colleagues and looking at our teachers and having conversations around project-based learning and what does authentic and high-level thinking look like in your classroom, what we found was that there was a common theme throughout all of the content areas, whether it's science, whether it's math, whether it's ELA, and we started to realize that although we may be working in isolation, that we are really speaking a very common language around planning and implementation. And that's where the district framework P-cubed evolved from, that we know that our good, authentic experience start with a problem or a spark or some way to engage students, and then it transfers into a process that's iterative, that has multiple revisions, that allows for refinement and feedback, and then finally comes with an end product of some fashion, a product that involves student choice, a product that involves a lot of reflection, and as I mentioned before, we want that learning to go public, so there should be a way to incorporate a public exhibit of some way, whether that be doing what we're doing now, right? This is a perfect example of the adults actually being good models and telling the story of what our learning and our experience and making our learning public for others to learn and gather feedback from, because we hope that we'll gather a lot of feedback around what we're doing and maybe some ways to better support our sustainability. So this is a slide that obviously we've been talking the whole time about. Throughout the process, we know that it is messy and that we don't expect students or teachers to design or do the work on their own. So we came up with a systematic approach to scaling up our capacity and moving the work forward, because as we know, when we were conducting our needs assessment back in 2018, there were a lot of gaps. We spent a lot of time doing our research, looking at best practice that were currently out in the field. We didn't think we needed to reinvent the wheel, but we needed to customize it for Norwalk. There was no perfect fit or perfect package that we felt was going to fill in all of our needs, but we knew that there were really good resources available to us that we could customize and make it our own, and that's where we decided to design and utilize those resources and the tools that we found out in the market that we connected with to create planning templates and use as an anchor and a launch pad to move the work forward faster. So we wanted to review with you some tangible items that we felt were critical to any successful implementation process. And so what we did was we started to see the momentum going a lot faster with our digital literacy group and with our STEAM ad hoc design team. And that was with the tools that we purchased, as well as the planning templates that we designed. So we're going to just quickly show you two of the planning templates that we have been using to date, and Chrissy has been using them and Kate has been using them. And then also one of the aspects around having a really strong anchor to support the learning, because we quickly realized that with our staff, they needed to visualize what the end product or the end result was going to look like for students and for them. And it's great to say project-based learning, but the reality was if there was no really good model in front of them and a tangible tool to work from, the work became very slow and messy and disconnected. And so defined learning has helped us be the launch pad to move the work and the capacity of our teachers forward much quicker than last year when we didn't have it.
And I would just add on to that it really is hard for teachers because it seems like such a daunting task. They would come up with great ideas, but they'd be very nebulous ideas. They'd kind of be floating out in the void, and without that anchor, without that structure, it made for a more stressful experiences with the teachers. They felt a little less successful with what they were doing. So kind of bringing that in and giving them that framework and giving them that structure and giving them those resources was a huge help.
Absolutely. So the next two slides, we wanted to give you a quick snapshot. These are not the full planners by any means, but we wanted to talk about customization because what we do in Norwalk is definitely not going to be something that fits in any one of your experiences out there right now. And we really spent a good year looking at resources such as free resources such as Edutopia or the Teaching Channel or PBL Works, which has a plethora of resources on it. We also, now that we have defined learning within our wheelhouse, this also helped us merge all of the information together and design our own planning and implementation tools to help scaffold the teacher understanding and the learning so that they felt more comfortable with implementing project-based learning. And so you can see the first page are just questions that we would ask teachers when they're designing. It all aligns to the P-cubed model. So what I mentioned before, what's the problem, what's the process, and what's the product? When you think about those three components every time you design, it helps you frame your conversation and your thinking so that when the students are going through the learning, it's streamlined. Because I always use this example, if you don't have a good framework for the planning, you could go into the realm of Pinterest, where you start in one area and it starts to quickly go into so many different facets, and then you get lost, and then none of the work gets done.
I can speak to that just a little bit too. One of the goals of what I personally think of project-based learning is to really kind of, to some degree, follow the student's interest. Because if it's something that they're bored and they don't care about it, you're going to have a tough time selling it and getting them to that deeper level of learning. So you have to kind of have enough room within your planning to kind of follow them a little bit, but still keep in mind your goal, still keep in mind your time frame, still keep in mind your assessments, and just making sure that their products are of quality. And it's not like it just happens and you know how to do it right away every time. It takes a little, it's a learning curve. Mm-hmm. But I think with these resources, it kind of helps you to maneuver that way.
Absolutely. And so we just showed you the overview planner, which is exactly that. The overview planner is just wrapping your head around the global picture of the unit, and then the implementation planner becomes a more robust, roll up your sleeves and really dive into what are the learning sequences that the students are going to be exposed to that build over time and get to the higher level thinking that you expect them to have by the end of the unit. So I see some questions coming through the thread about building capacity, finding time, training teachers. And, I wish there was an easy answer, and there's not on this one either. This work takes time, and it takes commitment from the district and the principals. And we have been on this journey almost a year and a half now, and the principals and the district are committed to the time that it takes for teachers to collaborate and the time that it takes for teachers to be creative. And a good project-based learning experience is not designed in an hour. So if you only have a 45-minute block of time and you really want to design a really robust PBL experience, there's going to be some give to get. You have to give them time so you can get out a really good project-based learning experience for kids. And so that is our process for teachers moving into this experience. And we want to make sure that we also give them the time to go out and explore other teachers that are in their shoes doing this work. What does it look like? Can I go observe a classroom, in district or out? That's one piece of the puzzle. Then we need to find the time to give them to collaborate with each other. And also time for the coach, because Chrissy and Kate are coaches in the district. We need to make sure that we carve out time for them to have a feedback session with the teachers. Because if they are so stressed or too nervous about implementing a project-based learning experience because it's a shift to what they normally do, then we're not effectively supporting them to continue that model. So Chrissy and Kate really carve out time in their schedules to gather feedback, to observe, to model, and to have a lot of conversation with the teachers.
And I think to Tina's point too, teachers a lot of times already have projects. They've already done things that have worked really well. They've already kind of been in this space to some degree. So you kind of have to, it does take the time to say, hey, listen, you've done this. You have very good ideas. You know what you're doing already. And just giving them that comfortability and knowing that they already have a lot of value, they already have a lot of skills. It's just making them comfortable in that space.
And then to add to that, our teachers are focused on how are my students meeting the standards, because we are a Common Core state standards state. And all of our curriculum maps are focused around, we chose priority standards with supporting standards underneath. And my teachers always ask, how is this going to help my students understand and show mastery of the standard? So what we love about having our anchor with Defined Learning is that it is standards aligned, and it does help teachers make those connections and use interdisciplinary subject areas and concepts in one real-world based performance tasks. It could be one performance task or it can be more. And this has made the journey into project-based learning a little easier, and especially a lot less daunting for our teachers to jump in, because without that support, it is a scary kind of minefield for them, because they don't have as much time as they wish they did for planning, and because they want to collaborate and they want to bounce ideas off of each other. So this anchor really just drives home what we want our whole district to look like with project-based learning.
I think along with that too, some of the issues that the teachers face are having to live in that somewhat uncomfortable space where you have to give up a little bit of control and of explicitly teaching that content, letting the students stumble and struggle while still providing them with the support that they need. And that's what I feel we do as coaches. We kind of are there to support the teachers as they stumble and struggle as well, but giving them enough resources and giving them enough time to talk to each other. Sometimes it's just sitting with the teacher and just talking something out is of so much value. You wouldn't think it would matter that much, but really sometimes just those conversations are really helpful.
So where we're going next in Norwalk is interesting. You have 5 little circle arrows there on that visual in front of you, and the reality is we are in the first 2 circles. We are really in the infancy stages of implementation in Norwalk. We have strong pockets of schools and classes, like in Chrissy's school, that is implementing with high fidelity around project-based learning. And Chrissy has been instrumental in that shift and that support. So we know, Kate and I have been working with the STEAM school, and we are really at the infancy stages of designing our project-based learning experiences for kids. And we are at the 2 green arrows there where we are collaborating still across the disciplines. We're creating transdisciplinary units. And then we're going to provide that ongoing support, as Chrissy mentioned, for those teachers that will be trying some of these experiences. We've designed 2 of them in our middle school. We haven't even tried them yet. So that's like our next step. We got to try it. We got to see what works, because scheduling and the time that it takes to complete some of our tasks, we're not quite sure how that's going to work at a middle school that's quite large. We have like 700 students in this one school, and so we don't know exactly what that's going to look like. And then moving forward, our goals is that we want to eventually in year 2 or 3, because we've only been in year 1.5. So down the road, 2, 3, 4 years from now, we hope to collect a repository of exemplars to put in a shared drive so teachers can access those resources and actually watch teachers implement effective PBL lessons, as well as a repository of templates that are already completed so teachers can just take it and try it. And then finally, we'd love to enhance the number of model classrooms that we have in the district so that we can utilize our own teachers and own resources in the district. So if a teacher wants to go watch or visit, we have the capacity to do that. So I think we're at the end here. Want to thank everybody. Hope you learned something. And I think we're going to turn it over to Maggie, and we're going to answer some questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Tina, for sharing, and team, for sharing your insights and experiences with us. Before I explain a bit about Design Learning, I'd like to pause here to take some questions. We have a good number of questions that have come in from our listeners. And the first question is, what are some ideas for sustainability on professional development for schools and districts in project-based learning?
Excellent. So
Tina,
I mentioned it in the last slide. Yeah, sure. Thank you. I'm sorry. I wanted to just elaborate a little bit on the last slide, which was focusing around sustainability and resources for teachers. Once you have a good, strong core team, like we're starting to develop in Norwalk with Chrissy and Kate, and unfortunately, I don't have the other group members, but we've got some other teachers that have really been taking the lead in this. We hope that we're going to create a shared repository of videos and lesson plans and designs so that they are aligned to grade level standards and also gives them an anchor and a way to feel more comfortable to try and implement a new task.
Okay, and the second question is, how do you inspire teachers to try a new structure? How long do they need to try before they find benefits?
So as a coach, I've definitely gone through this a little bit in the last year. The first thing I do is I'm lucky enough to have a lab in our school, so I model it myself in my lab. So teachers a lot of times will come down to see what's happening. There's really good response from the students, and they can see the work that they produce, so really showing them that student work. And I also go into classrooms to model. If they ever need support, I provide them with resources. I make myself available to co-teach. And like I said before, simply just talking things out. Sometimes I don't even need to really jump in that much when I'm co-teaching. It's just that it's almost like, I don't want to say hand-holding, but sometimes teachers just need you to kind of be there with them for a little bit. Knowing that that support system is there allows them to take more chances, allows them to take more risks and to try other things. And also knowing that I'm not there as an evaluator. I'm not there to deliver expectations and make sure that they're hitting A, B, and C. It makes a big difference just knowing that they have that support. As far as how long it takes to see benefits, it's different for each teacher. For some, it's after one lesson, and they're ready to just jump on board and go after it. But I would say the most time that I've seen so far, it's really after a full unit, where they not only see how excited the students become and how invested they become, but again, with that final product piece, with what they're actually putting out. They can actually teach someone else about the things that they have learned, and that's like the big light bulb goes off.
Okay, thank you, Chrissy. The next question is, how do you align project-based learning with standards-based instruction and attention to rigor without making it feel like just one more thing to add on?
Yeah, I'll jump in on this one. So we've learned from our experience that the root of a really good, rigorous project-based learning experience starts with a good curriculum. You have to start with a really good isolated curriculum. So your math, your science, your ELA, your social studies. If you have a strong foundation in curriculum and priority standards, as Kate mentioned before, it's a lot easier to start looking at commonalities across grade levels and units and creating themes that transcend throughout all of the other content areas so that it's not necessarily an extra unit, it becomes the unit. And you start to pull away from one way that you taught it and transition into a new way that you taught it. And then the other piece that Kate mentioned before, we want to make sure that kids are connected to the community and they are connected to themselves and each other. And after you have a good, strong curriculum and you start seeing the commonalities, then you can start layering on top the partnerships that you have, the community connections that you have, and you start answering the so what question. So what? So why does anybody want to do this? Like, why is this important and what is the purpose? And then you can start really attending to the rigor and attending to the social justice aspect of the design.
Okay, thank you, Tina. Our next question is, what are the best sources of free STEM and STEAM-based PBL units and lessons?
So we've been doing a lot of research on some of the best ones that are out there, and I'm gonna tell you that in general, this is just from me, my own perspective, nothing worth having is free, period. Some of the ones that I have stumbled across, like I mentioned before, Edutopia or PBL Works, there are resources on there that are really good and quality, and you can get yourself going. But I can tell you that if you're looking for maybe doing some research with a small group of teachers around research-based practices and doing a lesson study, some of the resources I would highly recommend. One is around high-quality curriculum, and that was written by Angela Lawler. We also talked about student-centered practices and student-centered skills that you need to look at in the classroom, and we're focusing that with Giselle Martin-Kniep on changing the way you teach. And then the last two books that I would recommend, and I will go to the free resource online part in a minute, but the two books that we've been really lining ourselves to a lot has been From STEM to STEAM, and that was written by David Sosa. And the online platform is, other than Define Learning, because Define Learning was our anchor for all of this work that we've been doing, but the last one that is, it's not free, but it's a high-quality resource, is Education Closet. So those would be some of my recommendations that we've really found to be the spark that we needed to get the work moving.
Great, thank you, Tina. The next question is, can project-based learning be an effective assessment tool?
So when it comes to standards-based assessment tool, it all comes down to planning, okay? So the two examples I gave you in the PowerPoint, which was about the overview planner and the implementation planner, when you actually have a really solid frame on how to design a project-based learning experience, it all comes back to the standards. And within both of those templates, you have to define those priority standards throughout all of the planning. And without it, you don't align to a good assessment, because the assessment needs to align to those priority standards as well. Like I said before, we're still in the infancy stages of the assessment part because we're still designing and implementing. But the last piece is we know that when we design a really strong, solid curriculum and instructional tool, the assessment will follow.
And I would add that I really like going back to student work to see that assessment piece. It's much, in my mind, it's a much better view of if the student has mastered the content, if they can teach you the content, if they can show you what they've done, if they have a fully formed product that they give you. That's, in my opinion, one of the best assessments you can have.
And then I want to add one more thing. I have a lot of teachers who come to me and say, but how is this going to help my students with their standardized tests? And through project-based learning and through these experiences, students are learning to be problem solvers, critical thinkers, using creativity and flexibility in how they tackle a task. And these are skills that they should be applying to these assessments that we have to give. And that's why I always tell my teachers, I said, if you are teaching these skills, then your students will be able to apply them in any situation, including a standardized test.
Great, thank you so much. The next question is, can project-based learning be easily applied to world language programs?
So I'll take that one. I come from a dual language school background. I teach on the English side. The other language in our school is Spanish. However, I have experience working with other languages. We do teach world language at the middle school level and the high school level in Norwalk. We have not just Spanish, but we have French, we have Mandarin, we have Italian. It goes on. So in regards to that, all of our world language classes are inquiry-based. They are research-based. So this project-based learning, module or way of learning is very natural for world language classes to take on. They usually incorporate a presentational mode, that final product where students have to share their learning with visuals and videos and all of that. And they have to use the academic language in the correct context in the language they're learning, obviously, that's appropriate to the topic. Students are using a lot of collaboration, there's interdependency happening, there's peer feedback, there's reflection, so it's definitely real-world based kind of learning. In my school specifically, we also address how to work with English language learners, whether it's their second or third or fourth language they're learning. And it's the similar thing. It's still inquiry-based, but they have a higher issue with learning the academic language, and that's where we try to support them the most. Instead of presenting in a large group format, we let them present in a smaller group format with a partner, a peer. And then we use a lot of visual cues during our presentations to help support their understanding of the topics we go over. And then another aspect we bring into our project-based learning, especially with our EL students, but also with all students, is some people have heard of the KWL chart. What do you know? What do you want to know? What did you learn? And this helps bring in our students' background knowledge, especially if they come from different cultures and speak different languages. So they're going to be bringing in all kinds of knowledge that will help the class as a whole better understand the topics we're learning about.
Great, thank you very much. And I think we have time for one last question. This question is, what have you found is the biggest hang-up for teachers? What specific professional development seems to turn the dial for these resistant teachers?
Yeah, so as I mentioned in the PowerPoint, last year when we were trying to build capacity in the district, we spent a lot of time allowing teachers to go make visits at schools. We spent a lot of time giving teachers the opportunities to go for training, and we found that was a good way to start. We did our own research with the books that I mentioned before, some of them. We looked at sample project-based learning tasks that are already been designed. And then when we came together to design our own, we quickly realized that wasn't enough. Teachers felt frustrated. They felt like they didn't know where they were going. So the two pieces that really helped us move the momentum much faster was, number one, we used defined learning as an anchor, to anchor up their skills, to anchor up their capacity, to anchor up their confidence, because they're already aligned to standards, they already are connected to career fields and videos, they follow the UBD design model, and there's an assessment feature. So for us, when we were designing our tasks separately on our own without any anchor, teachers became frustrated. They became frustrated, they didn't know where they were going, and so by having the implementation planner and the overview planner, because our teachers plan, they're planners, right? That's what they do, they're used to that. So they needed a template. They needed a template to kind of synthesize their ideas and make sure that they had all the components that we felt made a really good task. And then we used the defined learning tasks to really show them and visualize where they were going. And it wasn't until those two pieces came together that teachers finally had their own aha moment and started realizing, oh, I get it. I know where we're going. I can see it now. I had one teacher leave our training session afterwards and said, I wish we had that last year. I wish I could have just saw that last year, because now I can actually understand and see how the pieces of the puzzle are coming together. So that's how we have really built the needs for our teachers and met them where they were and based on what their needs were.
Great. Thank you so much, Tina, and thank you to our listeners for these great questions. Before we go, I would just like to tell you a little bit more about Defined Learning. Defined Learning is an online K-12 project-based learning solution that provides engaging, authentic lessons built around careers. Our cross-curricular projects provide opportunities for students to deepen their understanding and apply their knowledge in real-world scenarios. Designed to enhance core curriculum and save teachers time, we provide everything teachers need to implement and assess high-quality PBL, engaging real-world videos, research resources, editable rubrics, and more. We also provide an online student project and portfolio manager that allows teachers and districts to assess and measure student growth over time. You can gather data related to the career clusters students have been exposed to the skills they have been working on, and data on standards growth over the course of their time with the district. We also offer a plethora of professional development opportunities, from in-person trainings to an online PD course that is written and narrated by Jay McTighe. Our framework for performance tasks follows the Understanding by Design model by Jay McTighe to provide teachers with a planning process and structure for successful implementation. Each of our performance tasks starts with a real-world video that features a professional in their career explaining how he or she uses knowledge and skills from all content areas in their work. Then we ask the students to conduct a performance task where they must apply their knowledge and skills to solve a problem and create a product. Finally, each project provides students with an opportunity to reflect on their work. Our engaging real-world projects create excitement about career opportunities and empower students to build the future-ready skills they need to succeed in college and careers. If you are interested in learning more about Defined Learning or scheduling a demo, you can click the Request a Demo icon in the control panel at the bottom, and we would be happy to talk with you. Well, that concludes our webinar. Thank you to everyone for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.